We have a condo out in Montauk that we like to spend a lot of time at, and we like to kayak, ride our bikes, take walks in the woods, and spend as much time outdoors.
Chuck is my rock. He's just unflappable. He's funny and a pleasure to be around, and I can always count on him to help me.
One of the things about the last 23 years with Beth is that I'm fortunate that we still enjoy our company, and we love doing things together.
Oh, look, sweetheart, this is from our honeymoon. Hawaii. Seems like yesterday.
That was a good trip.
That was an excellent trip.
Oh, boy. I spent 32 years working in the New York State court system, mostly in Manhattan Supreme Court. I was a court clerk. I worked in a courtroom for several judges, handling their caseloads and dealing with the public.
I knew something was wrong with Chuck the summer of 2010. He just was not his old self. He was coming home from work and he wanted to go to sleep.
I was losing weight. I really didn't have much of an appetite. And I said something is not right.
After a few months of this, I said, honey, I think you really need to have a physical. There's something going on. And he agreed.
So I made an appointment with the hematologist a week later, and he said, let's run these tests.
And he received a phone call that his blood work was very off. I remember sitting in that office and I just felt like the blood drain out of my body, and it was painful. It was emotionally painful.
My name is Chuck. I have mantle cell lymphoma, or MCL.
Well, even though I knew there was something wrong with Chuck, I had no idea he had cancer, much less a rare form of cancer. And I was totally in shock.
When you hear rare form of cancer, it's shocking. It's like rare means it maybe is more serious than maybe there's not as many therapies and type of things to help you.
Mantle cell lymphoma is a white blood cell cancer that is derived from B lymphocytes that originally are found in the mantle zone of the lymph node. Typically, people with mantle cell lymphoma will present with enlarged lymph nodes, and some of the symptoms that can come along that depending on the location of those lymph nodes. But sometimes somebody can be asymptomatic and it can be picked up purely on a blood test or an imaging study done for another purpose.
The tumors were 90% of my spleen. My lymph nodes were enlarged. So funny thing is that you don't feel any type of pain with all these tumors. But when you hear that they're there and that they're considerable size, it's pretty shocking.
We see lymphomas in general more commonly as we get older, typically in the 60s or 70s, but I have seen people in their 30s and 40s develop mantle cell lymphoma. As the lymphoma cells accumulate over time, they can cause the lymph nodes where they're growing to enlarge. Depending on the location of those lymph nodes, they can compress on organs, impairing organ function, or just simply become uncomfortable. The lymphocytes or cancer cells can also expand and take up space in the bone marrow and spleen and impair the normal function of those organs, which might result in low blood counts.
Chuck underwent several treatments before his stem cell transplant. He first had to undergo chemo. After 4 or 5 months, we were able to go through with the stem cell transplant.
The problem with the autologous stem cell transplant is that there's a high chance of recurring again. And it did. After 3 years, it came back.
I pretty much froze. It's not the type of news you want to get or hear. And my heart sank. But I knew we had to do what we had to do to get Chuck back into remission.
When lymphoma comes back after initial therapy, essentially what it's telling us is that we have to come up with a new approach that is in some way different than that original therapy in order to try to put that now treatment-resistant tumor cell back into a remission.
And Beth, who had really been by my side the entire time and was very knowledgeable as far as her library skills, started to look into different options, and that there were some clinical trials that were being tried.
So I found a seminar for mantle cell lymphoma online, and Chuck and I decided to attend it. Dr. Peter Martin was the presenter, and he was talking about new treatments on the horizon for this disease. He showed some slides of how one patient had his lymph nodes just basically return to normal. And we thought this might be something that could help Chuck.
I took a leap of faith. We took a leap of faith with the clinical trial. And I think some people are a little leery of that. They think clinical trial, it's like being a guinea pig. And I would say no. I would say that clinical trials are really valuable, and I would recommend somebody that it's really something that you should look into. They not only for yourself, but it does help other people.
It might seem intimidating to be patient 001, but I actually felt very hopeful, and I was proud of him.
He was the first patient to participate in that clinical trial in August of 2014 and has continued to do really well today, amazingly. And it's been a real career highlight to be able to see somebody go through this experience and continue to do well.
Having somebody like Beth, my wife, was so important because when you go through something like this, you really need somebody by your side. It's very difficult to do it alone. It's overwhelming. And I was very fortunate that she was very diligent in her research, and she's gotten very involved in the whole MCL scene. She knows the latest treatments. She's read up on them. She's researched them. And she's actually edits a website for MCL that helps people around the country.
I was looking into groups where I could find other people who had MCL, as it is a rare disease. I found a group from ACOR, American Cancer Online Resources, that had an MCL-specific dialogue. And I started participating in the background and listening to other people's journeys with this disease. And I was very encouraged to see that there were many people who were living 10, 15, 20 years with MCL. And that gave me a lot of hope. The water looks pretty calm.
It's been 8 years, over 8 years now, and I'm cancer-free at this point. I go for regular checkups with Dr. Martin. I have PET scans. My blood level counts are all normal for a person like me.
Good egg, hon.
Yeah, at Weill Cornell Medicine, we've been involved in the development of most new treatments for lymphoma, but in a world when new treatments are being developed and can allow us to take better care of people, why wouldn't you want to be part of that?
I feel that since Chuck's diagnosis of MCL, our life has actually improved because we appreciate everything we do. And life has gotten better and better.
The nice thing is that you're able to do and experience normal, everyday things, little things that you took for granted, like taking a walk in the woods.
My happiest moments are when I'm on the water in my kayak and I see Chuck paddling in front of me and looking up at the sky, and he has his little sun hat on and his life preserver, and I say, thank you for, I'm so grateful to all the people who got him there, and it doesn't get better than that.